Welcome to 21st Century Dating Decoded. We're making modern love simple. Get ready to decode your love life. Brought to you by Mingle.
Usually when we talk about a major technological leap, there is this underlying assumption that we are, moving forward.
Right.
Like it's the expectation of progress. Think about moving from dial-up internet to high-speed broadband. You look back at the old way, the screeching modem sound, the agonizingly slow loading screens, the fact that if someone picked up the house phone, your entire connection just completely dropped.
Oh man, the panic of someone picking up the receiver in the kitchen.
Yes, exactly. And you just laugh about it now. You would never go back to that.
No, it's a one-way street. I mean, you upgrade the infrastructure and you leave the outdated, vulnerable system in the dust where it belongs.
Right, because it feels clean, it's comforting. We build our entire modern lives around the security of knowing our systems are faster, better, and infinitely more secure than they were 20 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then you step into the world of modern romance and social networking in the United States, and suddenly the script completely flips.
It really does.
We are watching a cultural landscape where everyone is violently pulling the plug on the broadband router and desperately searching the basement for a rotary phone. It is a mass migration back to the physical, analog world.
It's a profound sociological whiplash. We spent a decade optimizing connection only to realize the optimization was the exact thing making us miserable.
Exactly. And that brings us to the core of what we are unpacking today.
Hello, I am Alice, and I want to welcome you to a very special deep dive into our source material. Today, we are exploring a phenomenon we are calling 56K Rocket City dial-up romance. Speed dating and safety.
And I am Zach. I will be guiding you through the mechanics, the data infrastructure, and, the sociological underpinnings of this massive cultural shift.
Today is Monday, August 10th, 2026. And if you look across the United States right now, singles are abandoning digital dating apps in absolute droves.
Oh, completely?
They are deleting the swipes, they are dropping the gamified matching systems, and they're desperately seeking authentic, face-to-face, in real-life connections.
Which sounds great on paper, right? It does. But we are here to ask you a very difficult question. In your rush to escape digital fatigue, are you accidentally walking into a massive, real-world privacy nightmare?
Because when society rushes to escape a new problem, we have a terrible habit of running blindly into the arms of a much older, significantly more dangerous one, simply because it feels nostalgic.
Right, nostalgia is a trap. I want to pose this directly to you listening right now. Would you ever, in a million years, do your online banking today on an unencrypted 56K dial-up connection?
Never.
Would you type your routing number into a website that didn't even have a basic security certificate?
You'd have to be crazy.
Of course not. The vulnerabilities are astronomical. You'd be drained in a second. So why, in the year 2026, would you trust your highly sensitive romantic life, your personal preferences, your exact physical location, and your private data to the equivalent of a 56K dating operation?
That disconnect between our financial security standards and our personal safety standards is what makes this so critical. To illustrate this, we're going to use a micro case study today.
Yeah, let's dive into that.
We are looking at two very specific, heavily contrasting operations happening right now in Huntsville, Alabama.
The Rocket City, which is honestly perfectly fitting for a discussion about modernizing infrastructure.
On one side of the city, we have a traditional, entirely analog model called speed dating Huntsville. And on the other, we have a highly modernized, tech-forward, privacy-by-design ecosystem known as Mingle.
And by putting these two distinct methodologies head-to-head, we're going to help you navigate the profound physical, digital, and logistical implications of choosing exactly where and how you meet people offline.
We are looking at this objectively, analyzing them as case studies to understand what the future of human connection actually requires.
So let's start with the motivation. Before we can talk about the solutions, we have to deeply understand the problem. Why are Americans suddenly so desperate to get offline?
It's app fatigue, definitely.
We are talking about app fatigue, but it's more than just being tired of looking at a screen, right? It's a profound psychological burnout.
Oh, it goes down to the neurochemical level. For the last decade, dating apps sold us on the premise of efficiency.
Right, the numbers game.
Exactly. The idea was that by giving you a massive volume of choices, you would mathematically increase your odds of finding a perfect match.
But what they actually delivered was a frictionless void.
A complete void. When you are swiping left and swiping right, you are engaging in a repetitive behavior that numbs the brain. The people on the screen cease to be humans. They basically become trading cards.
Wow, yeah, trading cards. That's bleak.
And because every digital profile is curated to absolute perfection, the entire ecosystem is built on a foundation of fundamentally inauthentic data. It's what sociologists are calling the polished lie.
The polished lie. I love that term because it captures the exhaustion so perfectly. The pre-interaction labor on these apps is just staggering.
It's exhausting just thinking about it.
You match with someone, and then you spend days, sometimes weeks, texting. You were trying to parse their tone. You were trying to figure out if their photo is from this year or from like 2018.
Or if it's even them.
Right. And then after all this digital labor, you finally meet them for a coffee, and within 4 seconds you realize you have absolutely zero physical chemistry.
The algorithm completely failed to account for pheromones, body language, or even just the cadence of their voice.
Because an algorithm, at least a superficial swiping algorithm, cannot simulate the warmth, the respect, and the unpredictable, chaotic nature of human interaction sitting across a table.
It just can't. The apps engineered the serendipity right out of the equation.
And this intense digital exhaustion has created a massive, highly lucrative market for structured in-person events. People are practically begging for someone to just put them in a room with other singles.
Which brings us to the first model in our Huntsville case study, Speed Dating Huntsville. Now, if you look at their stated organizational mission, it is literally to help people ditch the apps.
They are highly direct about their market positioning.
They really are. They are tapping right into that cultural frustration. Their operational footprint relies on utilizing existing entertainment spaces.
Like sports bars or arcades.
Exactly. For example, they host events at venues like Dave & Buster's. Looking at their calendar, they have a double-speed dating event scheduled for August 14th and subsequent events on August 27th and 28th, with tickets priced at $33.85.
And they lean very heavily into gamified, structured fun. Because let's be honest with ourselves, the cold approach is basically dead.
It's completely dead.
The idea of just walking up to a stranger at a bar, tapping them on the shoulder and introducing yourself is absolutely terrifying for the modern single.
Oh, nobody does that anymore.
We spent the last 10 years staring at our phones in public spaces. We have collectively lost the muscle memory for spontaneous analog interaction.
That is a crucial point. The fear of rejection in a cold approach is incredibly high. So to mitigate that anxiety, an operation like Speed Dating Huntsville gamifies the evening.
They make it a game.
Yeah, they take the pressure off the individual to initiate. For example, they run a singles bingo night at El Coyote Mexican restaurant.
Oh, bingo. Okay.
Right. Or by utilizing the arcade setting at Dave & Buster's, they offer an add-on where you can buy a $50 game card for $10. The environment is designed to distract you from the inherent awkwardness of the setup.
It's highly structured. The formula is usually something like you walk in, you have 30 minutes of unstructured mingling just to get a drink, shake off the nerves, and settle into the physical space.
Just to breathe, basically.
Yeah. Then the host takes over. They spend exactly 10 minutes doing introductions and laying out very strict ground rules. They call this protecting the experience.
Ensuring that the chaos of 50 strangers in a room is corralled into a manageable format.
But that structure inherently requires pre-registration, which brings us to the concept of room curation. If you are going to guarantee a good experience, you have to control who walks through the door.
And this is where we have to look very closely at the mechanics of how an analog system filters its attendees, because it relies on explicit, heavy-duty filtering.
Right. I was reading their promotional copy for that August 14th event, and they included a highly specific directive.
What did it say?
They explicitly asked for a, quote, Jesus follower looking for a genuine connection.
Wow, okay.
Now, looking at this purely objectively, completely setting aside any personal religious beliefs on either side, from a structural standpoint, that is a fascinating mechanism for pre-qualifying a physical room.
It's an analog replacement for a digital filter.
Explain that.
Well, on a dating app, you check a box for religion or politics or lifestyle, and the computer code invisibly hides anyone who doesn't match your criteria.
Right. The app does the filtering before you even see them.
Exactly. When you move to a physical space, you lose the invisible code. So the organizer has to do the heavy lifting up front. By putting that highly specific filter right in the marketing copy, they are attempting to ensure that when you sit down at table number 4, the stranger sitting across from you already meets a very specific baseline of your personal values.
But hold on, this is where my alarm bells start ringing. The idea of escaping the digital algorithm sounds romantic. It sounds like a return to a simpler time.
It sounds great, yeah.
But if I'm giving up the app, aren't I just handing over my highly sensitive personal life to a human organizer?
You are.
We are talking about a local mom-and-pop host. Do they actually have the enterprise-level infrastructure to protect the data I'm giving them, or are they just operating out of a spiral notebook and a generic email account?
And that is the exact pivot point where the nostalgia of analog dating crashes into the reality of 21st century data security.
It's scary.
You aren't just handing over $33 for an evening of entertainment, you are handing over your identity. You are handing over your romantic availability, your demographic data, and your actual physical presence.
Which brings us to the first major pillar of our comparison today, privacy. Let's talk about photography, social media, and a concept the tech industry has started to refer to as toxic tagging.
This is a huge issue. If we look at the evolution of this industry, the early 2000s model of speed dating was built on paper, sign-up sheets, and cash at the door.
Very analog.
Right. So when these traditional mom-and-pop operators eventually had to transition online to sell tickets, they brought that casual analog mindset with them.
They didn't upgrade their security.
No, they didn't adopt enterprise privacy standards at all. They just started using social media as a free bulletin board. They began taking participant photos at their private events specifically to market their future events.
Which Speed Dating Huntsville absolutely does. They take pictures of the attendees, people who paid for a private, discreet matchmaking experience, and they use those photos to sell tickets for the next round.
It's wild.
And they are just posting them to a private newsletter. They are posting them on entirely public social media pages.
Yes. In the source material we analyzed for this deep dive, there is a specific Facebook post from a massive public community group called What's Happening in Huntsville, Madison, Athens.
A completely open public bulletin board where anyone in northern Alabama can see what is going on.
Exactly. Speed Dating Huntsville made a post boasting about a recent event they held at a venue called the Casual Pint.
Okay, I know that place.
They claimed a 75% match rate, meaning 75% of the guests walked away with at least one mutual match.
From a purely promotional standpoint, that is a fantastic marketing statistic.
Oh, sure. But right there, attached to the public post for thousands of local residents to see, are photos of the mingling attendees.
Okay, I need us to really sit with the reality of this. You pay your $33, you put on a nice outfit, you psych yourself up, and you go to a private room at the Casual Pint to discreetly look for romantic chemistry.
You're putting yourself out there.
You are putting yourself in a highly vulnerable position. And the next morning you wake up and your face is plastered on a public Facebook group with tens of thousands of members.
It's a privacy nightmare.
We live in an era of automated facial recognition. These platforms aren't just displaying photos, they are scanning them, indexing the geometry of your face, and automatically suggesting tags to anyone you might be connected to.
And that mechanism is the textbook definition of toxic tagging.
Toxic tagging.
The danger isn't just that a stranger sees your face. The danger is cross-pollination of your personal and professional networks.
Right.
What happens when that public Facebook photo gets indexed and the automated facial recognition pushes your speed dating photo directly into your boss's feed or your client's feeds?
It is an unacceptable professional risk. Imagine you are a high school teacher in the Madison School District.
Oh, wow.
Or you are a corporate attorney, a sitting judge, or a prominent pediatrician in Huntsville. Do you want your highly private, emotionally vulnerable romantic pursuits broadcast to your entire professional community?
Definitely not.
Do you want your students' parents knowing that you were at a speed dating event at a local bar on a Thursday night?
No one consents to being free marketing collateral, especially not individuals whose professional integrity and community standing rely on a strict boundary between their public duties and their private lives.
It represents a massive fundamental clash between a business's need for a public marketing strategy and a client's expectation of private matchmaking.
Exactly. Going to an unencrypted, public-facing speed dating event like this is the real-world equivalent of walking through a crowded shopping mall wearing a giant name tag with your phone number and your relationship status written on it in Sharpie.
It is absurd. Why are consumers allowing this to happen?
They allow it because the nostalgia is blinding. People are so desperate for the analog experience that they completely forget to ask basic questions about data custody.
Because they just want off the apps.
Right. If you look closely at how the identity data itself is handled by Speed Dating Huntsville, you'll see they rely on generic Yahoo and Gmail addresses for their official communication.
Wait, seriously, a generic Yahoo email address for handling sensitive matchmaking data, payment confirmations, and personal contact information?
Yes, there is a complete lack of enterprise-level cybersecurity infrastructure. It is a consumer-grade tool being used for highly sensitive commercial data routing.
That's so risky.
Now, I want to contrast this bulletin board approach with how a modernized operation like SpeedMingle handles the exact same scenario. SpeedMingle operates their entire ecosystem on a core principle they call anonymity by design.
Okay, but anonymity by design sounds a bit like a tech buzzword. How does that actually function in the real world?
Good question.
If I buy a ticket and walk into a SpeedMingle event, what are the actual mechanics protecting my identity?
It starts before you even arrive. They utilize a proprietary encrypted platform called the SmartSync engine. First and foremost, they structurally encourage and allow the use of aliases during the physical event.
Aliases, like fake names.
Yeah. If you are that high-profile professional, the judge, the teacher, the physician, and you do not want your real first name floating around a crowded room of 50 strangers, you register, get your name tag, and interact using a pseudonym.
I have to push back on that for a second.
Okay.
If I'm using a fake name and the guy sitting across from me is using a fake name, aren't we just recreating the exact anonymity problem of Tinder?
How
do I know the person I'm talking to isn't hiding something nefarious? Doesn't the alias system completely defeat the purpose of authentic connection?
That is a great distinction to make. The difference between app anonymity and SmartSync anonymity is accountability.
Accountability, okay.
On an app, a fake name is often attached to an unverified ghost account. At a SpeedMingle event, the organizers have your verified encrypted data on the back end.
So they know who you are.
Exactly. The alias is merely a shield for the public-facing physical room. You are fully accountable to the organizers, but you remain private to the room. It lowers the immediate stakes and removes the pressure of giving your real name to someone you might speak to for exactly 5 minutes and never want to see again.
Okay, so it's a temporary shield for the duration of the event, backed by actual verification behind closed doors.
Right.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Furthermore, the SmartSync architecture guarantees that absolutely no last names, no email addresses, and no phone numbers are ever released to anyone you match with, or, crucially, anyone you don't match with, during the physical event itself.
Which brings up their controlled information exchange protocol. I was digging into the source materials, and this part fascinated me.
Yeah, it's pretty innovative.
They do not allow you to swap phone numbers at the table. Contact info is only released via their secure web app, and it is only released after a mutual match is confirmed independently by both parties after they leave the venue.
The cryptographic term for this is a double-blind opt-in handshake.
That sounds very official.
The system basically acts as a secure intermediary. If we connect that back to the photo policy and the toxic tagging issue, SpeedMingle understands the vital difference between a private social environment and a marketing billboard.
They aren't going to post you on Facebook.
No, they use clear, explicit public disclaimers regarding any media, but more importantly, their entire digital ecosystem is built to hide your personal contact sphere until you explicitly, mutually consent to open the gate.
So you aren't waking up on a Wednesday morning in a complete panic, untagging yourself from a public Facebook group that is promoting their next Eventbrite campaign. You retain total agency over who knows you were there.
Your data is an asset that you control, not a commodity that the host mines for free advertising.
But the privacy nightmare of the traditional analog model isn't just digital. It is fiercely, uncomfortably physical.
Oh, yes. The physical vulnerabilities are huge.
Which brings us to the next major focal point of our deep dives today, the psychological and logistical disaster of the paper scorecard dilemma.
This is where the romanticized view of the 1990s dating model completely breaks down under modern scrutiny.
It completely falls apart.
Speed Dating Huntsville, adhering to the classic format, relies on an entirely analog system. You sit down at a table, you talk to someone, and then you are expected to secretly track your matches on a physical piece of paper on a clipboard.
Let's really unpack the physical reality of this for a second.
Okay, paint the picture.
Put yourself in this scenario. You are sitting at a small table, maybe 2 feet away from a complete stranger.
Right.
You have a 5-minute conversation. Maybe it's great. Maybe it was incredibly awkward. Maybe they talked about their ex the entire time.
Yikes. Yeah, that happened.
The bell rings. The conversation ends. And now, while this person is still sitting right in front of you, you have to look down at a piece of paper, take out a pen, and physically check yes or no next to their name.
The tension in that moment is palpable.
It is excruciating. What happens if the person sitting across from you is watching your pen?
They always watch the pen.
What if they see that you very clearly did not check their name? Or worse, what if you try to be polite and wait until they get up to move to the next table, but they just linger?
Oh, man.
You are trapped in a standoff over a piece of paper.
What you are describing is the reintroduction of harsh real-time rejection.
Yes.
Ironically, the fear of real-time rejection was one of the primary reasons dating apps became so popular in the first place.
Because apps offered asynchronous rejection, which is much safer.
Exactly. The analog scorecard strips away that psychological buffer entirely. But the psychological vulnerability is just the surface. The physical vulnerability is significantly worse.
Right. Think about the safety implications here. If a stranger sees you reject them in real time, how do they react?
You have no idea.
Do they harass you at the venue? If they feel slighted because they saw your scorecard, do they wait by the exit and follow you to your car in the parking lot?
That is a very real fear.
Do they confront you aggressively at the bar while you are just trying to order a drink during the intermission?
We are dealing with human egos in a highly charged environment. Providing real-time visual feedback of rejection is a massive physical security flaw in the event's design.
It really is.
And it raises an even bigger logistical question regarding the chain of custody of that sensitive data once the night is over.
Yes. What actually happens to those paper cards? The host collects 50 pieces of paper at the end of the night. What is the life cycle of that document?
That is the ultimate blind spot of the analog model. Think about what is written on that card.
Everything.
It contains your full name, your personal contact preferences, your demographic data, and a literal chronological list of exactly who you are sexually or romantically attracted to and who you rejected in that specific room.
It is a highly sensitive document.
So what does the organizer do with it?
Yeah, what do?
Are they taking these cards back to an office and securely destroying them with a crosscut industrial shredder?
I doubt it.
Or, because this is a small operation, are they just tossing them into a regular commercial trash can behind Dave & Buster's at midnight, where literally anyone, a stalker, an angry attendee, an identity thief, could just fish them out?
Given the lack of enterprise infrastructure we have already observed, the latter is a highly probable scenario.
There is no cryptographic hash for a piece of paper in a dumpster.
It is genuinely horrifying when you trace the physical life cycle of that data. And we're just blinding ourselves to basic personal security because we watch too many 90s rom-coms and want that cute analog experience.
Nostalgia is a very powerful, very dangerous anesthetic.
That is so true.
Which is exactly why SpeedMingle realized they had to abandon the paper scorecard model entirely. They wanted to keep the focus on in-real-life connection, but they needed to modernize the data custody.
So they got rid of the paper.
Yes. They solved this with a tech-forward approach that rigorously respects physical boundaries and psychological safety.
But how does that work if they don't let you use your phone? Because during a SpeedMingle event, they have a very strict, highly enforced, phones off, minds on policy.
Right, they do.
I am a bit confused here. If I don't have a paper scorecard and I am not allowed to look at my phone, how on earth am I supposed to track my matches? Am I supposed to just memorize 50 interactions?
The brilliance of the system is that you aren't supposed to track anything in real time.
Wait, really?
The phones off, minds on policy forces you to focus purely on the human interaction. You aren't managing data while you talk, you are just talking.
Oh, wow.
You aren't writing anything down, you are simply being present. The matching is handled entirely post-event via the SmartSync digital portal.
Walk me through that timeline. How does that play out?
Okay, so you have your conversations, the event ends, you get in your car, you drive home, and you get comfortable. Only then do you log into the encrypted SmartSync app on your phone or computer.
Once you are completely safe.
Exactly. The app presents you with the aliases of the people you met. In the quiet privacy of your own home, in a completely zero-pressure environment, you securely indicate who you felt chemistry with.
Okay, that completely eliminates the standoff at the table.
There is absolutely no awkward, on-the-spot rejection.
The person sitting across from you has no idea if you are going to select them or not, because you literally cannot select them until you are miles away from the venue.
Right.
You were just having a normal human conversation without the looming threat of a scorecard sitting between you.
Precisely. The tension just evaporates. And from an infrastructure standpoint, the chain of custody of your data is entirely digital, entirely encrypted, and hosted on secure servers.
It is not sitting on a clipboard.
And it is certainly not sitting in a dumpster in a Huntsville strip mall.
Mm-hmm.
It is the perfect marriage of analog, physical presence, and enterprise-level digital security.
It's taking the only good thing about dating apps, the asynchronous, double-blind matching, and applying it to the physical world.
That's a great way to put it.
But as we look at how these rooms are constructed, this brings us to another highly controversial aspect of the traditional model. We need to talk about curation.
This is a big one.
Specifically, we need to talk about age discrimination versus algorithmic facilitation.
When you analyze how a traditional operation like Speed Dating Huntsville segments its audience, you find a system that is incredibly rigid and heavily reliant on demographic gatekeeping.
It is strictly biological. If you look at their calendar, they run events that are specifically capped by age.
Very strict brackets.
Right. They will have one area designated for ages 24 to 36 and another completely separate area for ages 35 to 49. Or they will run an exclusive standalone event that is strictly 35 and older.
And we have to ask the critical sociological questions here. Is this actually curated matching? Or is this open discrimination masquerading as organization?
Exactly. What if you are 50 years old? You are incredibly vibrant, you are active, and your genuine romantic preference is to date people in their late 30s or early 40s.
Can you even attend the 35 to 49 event?
That's the question. Or are you barred at the door because the birth year on your driver's license doesn't fit their arbitrary mathematical bracket?
Or take the inverse. What if you are 34 years old, you have always been mature for your age, and you are specifically attracted to older, more established professionals in their mid-40s?
In the analog system, you are physically locked out of that room.
These rigid, age-based physical barriers force complex human beings into completely arbitrary boxes. It violently limits the scope of human connection based on a single linear metric biological age.
And hold on. If the whole entire point of getting off dating apps is to let organic chemistry happen, to allow for serendipity, why on earth are we letting a mom-and-pop event organizer dictate exactly who we are allowed to have chemistry with?
It defeats the purpose.
We are paying them to remove the digital barriers, only for them to build physical walls.
And if we connect this right back to the privacy and security issues we just discussed, enforcing these rigid age brackets requires the host to act as a bouncer.
Oh, right, they have to verify.
To enforce a 35 to 49 rule, the organizer must collect highly sensitive demographic data, exact birth dates, government-issued identification at the door or during registration.
They are demanding the kind of data a bank asks for.
But they are doing it without a secure cybersecurity framework to protect it. They're acting as a gatekeeper without owning a secure vault.
So how does Speed Mingle handle curation? If they aren't checking IDs at the door to enforce arbitrary age limits, aren't their events just chaotic free-for-alls?
Not at all.
How do they ensure you actually meet people you are compatible with?
They replace the rigid demographic bouncer with an interest-based, passion-driven facilitation algorithm through the SmartSync platform.
Okay, how does that work?
Long before you even step through the physical doors of the venue, the system conducts a deep dive analysis of your stated interests, your core values, your lifestyle preferences, and your specific connection goals.
Wait, I need to challenge this.
Go for it.
You are talking about algorithms again.
Mm.
Didn't we literally start this deep dive by saying people are fleeing dating apps because they hate algorithms?
We did say that, yes.
So how is Speed Mingle using an algorithm any different than what Tinder or Bumble does?
It's the difference between a gatekeeping algorithm and a facilitation algorithm.
Explain the difference.
An app algorithm uses data to keep you on the app. It hides people from you to string you along and keep you swiping.
True.
The SmartSync algorithm is purely logistical. It doesn't hide people. It analyzes this matrix of human experience to optimize the physical room.
Optimizing the room, okay.
It isn't just looking at an arbitrary age bracket. It is looking for profound baseline compatibility.
So in a Speed Mingle event, You might actually sit down and match with someone who is 5 years outside of your typical self-imposed age range, because the algorithm recognized a deep, profound alignment in your core values or your life passions.
Exactly. Something a rigid paper scorecard and a bouncer checking IDs would have completely missed.
It facilitates the serendipity rather than crushing it.
Right. And what is truly fascinating about Speed Mingle's approach to the physical room is their fundamental recognition that human connection isn't just about romantic dating.
Yes, I really wanted to bring this up because this changes the entire vibe of the room. It transforms it from a high-pressure meat market into an actual community gathering.
It diffuses the tension brilliantly. They have completely revolutionized the scope of the mixer by offering 3 distinct, specialized tracks at their events simultaneously.
3 tracks in the same room.
Yes. They have the dating track, obviously, for those seeking romantic chemistry. But right alongside it, operating in the same ecosystem, they offer a friendship track.
A friendship track. That is so needed right now.
It really is. This is specifically designed for people who might be new to a city or who just want to expand their local social circles, find activity partners, or build genuine platonic bonds without the pressure of romance.
And then there is the B2B networking track, which is tailored for entrepreneurs, freelancers, and professionals looking for business synergy.
Right. Think about the sociology of that room for a second.
It must be incredible.
You have a vibrant, dynamic mix of people seeking all different types of human connection. The pressure is instantly lifted because not everyone is hunting for a spouse.
The desperation just vanishes.
Completely. All of this is curated safely by a back-end system that respects your goals, rather than just shoving you into a designated corner based solely on the year you were born.
It is treating adults like adults, which leads us to our final major point of comparison today. And honestly, this might be the most telling indicator of how your data, your safety, and your time will be treated.
The digital footprint.
Let's talk about online presence, corporate footprint, and professional integrity.
If you are going to hand over your credit card information, your deeply personal romantic preferences, and your physical safety for an evening, you need to know exactly who you are dealing with.
Absolutely.
Are they a true, accountable corporate entity, or are they a temporary mom-and-pop operation trying to make an extra buck on a Friday night?
Let's break down the digital footprint of Speed Dating Huntsville, based strictly on the publicly available data from our research.
What do the numbers look like?
If you look at their metrics, they have been operating for roughly 1 year. On Eventbrite, which is their primary ticketing platform, they have a grand total of 272 followers.
Not huge.
Across 15 hosted events, they have reported 464 total attendees.
Let's unpack the math on those figures for a second.
Okay, go ahead.
464 attendees spread out across 15 events averages out to just about 30 people per event.
That is an incredibly small-scale operation.
It is a micro-operation, and when you look at how they conduct business, they promote primarily via those public Facebook community bulletin boards we discussed.
Right, the open groups.
They use generic Yahoo or Gmail addresses for customer service. From a structural standpoint, it is highly probable that the entire operation is being run off a single personal mobile phone rather than a dedicated, secure, encrypted office network.
I want to give the listener a hypothetical scenario here.
I love hypotheticals.
Imagine you are buying a piece of software, or maybe you are booking a travel package online.
Okay.
If the business you were trying to buy from didn't have a verified Google business profile, didn't have a professional company LinkedIn page to show who actually works there, and communicated with you exclusively via a generic Yahoo email address, would you give them your credit card number?
No way. The vast majority of modern consumers would immediately flag that as a massive security risk.
They would assume it was a phishing scam or a fly-by-night operation.
Oh, totally.
Right. We are hyper-vigilant about our money. So if you wouldn't give an operation like that your credit card for a $50 purchase, why on earth are you giving an operation like that unfettered access to your highly vulnerable dating life, your physical location, and your personal identity?
It just doesn't make sense when you view it through the lens of professional integrity and data hygiene.
It really doesn't.
And when you compare that bare-bones bulletin board footprint to Speed Mingle's polished enterprise-level ecosystem, the difference is absolutely staggering.
It's night and day.
Speed Mingle isn't just throwing parties in the back of an arcade. They are building comprehensive infrastructure for human connection.
They built the secure Smart Sync portal.
They operate using dedicated secure domain emails. But beyond the tech, they are producing actual peer-reviewed thought leadership in the relationship space.
They do. They host the widely read Ask Allison Zach blog.
They are the driving force behind this very deep dive into the sociology of modern romance.
They are deeply structurally invested in the science of how humans connect. They aren't just renting a room and printing out paper scorecards.
To illustrate what a professional, modern, in-real-life event actually looks like in practice, we can look at their upcoming flagship event.
The Rocket City Rendezvous.
Yes, the Rocket City Rendezvous Speed Mingle. Based on the latest press releases, this is scheduled for mid-September, specifically noted for September 10th, and it is taking place at Das Stahl Beer House in Huntsville.
Oh, Das Stahl Beer House. That is a fantastic premium venue. It completely elevates the experience from the standard arcade setting.
It signals a completely different tier of event curation. And the promotional material for the Rocket City Rendezvous highlights every single safeguard we have discussed today. Tech-forward matching algorithms, gamified networking that doesn't rely on humiliating paper scorecards, and a completely pressure-free zone where contact details are strictly and cryptographically exchanged only upon mutual post-event consent through the secure system.
It is the absolute antithesis of the 56K dial-up experience. If the analog model is the screeching modem dropping your connection, Speed Mingle is fiber optic broadband for your social life.
I love that analogy.
It's secure, it's fast, and it's actually built for the realities of the modern world.
As we begin to wrap up this deep dive, I think it's crucial to summarize the truly holistic approach that Speed Mingle has pioneered. Because they aren't just relying on one single format.
They really aren't.
They recognize that human connection isn't one size fits all, so they built an entire multi-tiered ecosystem.
Let's run through their distinct offerings because it really showcases the sheer scale of their vision. First, they have happenings.
Happenings, right.
These are the high-energy, activity-based mixers at premium-specific venues, like the Rocket City Rendezvous we just mentioned.
High energy, lots of moving parts.
Exactly. Then they have a tier called Social, which is incredibly innovative. These are non-hosted weekly meetups at local breweries and cafes.
Non-hosted, so how does that work?
You just look for the reserved table sign, sit down, and find your community. There is no host breathing down your neck, no pressure, just organic connection facilitated by the network.
That is brilliant. They also bridge the digital and physical divide with a program called Anywhere.
Oh, right, the virtual option.
Yeah, this facilitates secure, face-to-face virtual video connections, allowing for a global reach while still maintaining the anonymity by design principles.
For the busy professional who doesn't have time for mixers, they offer a one-to-one, which is bespoke, highly curated matchmaking on your own schedule.
And finally, my personal favorite sociological experiment, Neighbors.
Neighbors is such a cool concept.
This is a brilliant concept focused purely on hyperlocal community building within specific apartment buildings or immediate neighborhoods.
It is a complete top-to-bottom reimagining of how we meet, interact, and build our social fabric. So, to you, the listener, the takeaway from this deep dive is clear. It is time to officially ditch the 56K dial-up dating experience.
Long overdue.
The data vulnerabilities are just too high, the physical risks of analog scorecards are unacceptable, and frankly, you deserve better infrastructure for your romantic and social life. We highly encourage you to seek out and attend a Speed Mingle event in your area.
And here's the actionable part. If you look at the calendar and there isn't an event currently scheduled nearby, do not wait for one to magically appear.
Take action yourself.
Speed Mingle is actively expanding their infrastructure nationwide. You can contact them directly through their secure portal to become a local host, offer up your own commercial venue, or even explore becoming a full franchise partner in your city.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Take active control of your social landscape. Don't settle for the dumpster behind the arcade. And of course, make sure you subscribe and listen to more deep dives from our podcast as we continue to track and analyze this massive cultural shift.
Before we sign off today, I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to ponder over your coffee tomorrow morning.
Oh, wait on us.
We have spent this time dissecting the transition from digital fatigue back to physical reality, and we've exposed the massive privacy chasms that exist in that transitional space.
We've definitely shown a spotlight on the murky waters of how our data is traded for a night out.
We have. But if we project the sociological trend forward, as society increasingly craves authentic, unplugged, physical human interaction, will privacy itself become a luxury commodity?
Wow. Okay, keep going.
Think about it. If you find yourself in a position where you have to pay a premium to an enterprise-level company just to ensure your face is kept off a local business's public social media feed, what does that say about the future of our public spaces?
That is a terrifying thought.
It forces us to ask a deeply unsettling question. In the 21st century, is the fundamental human right to simply be anonymous in a crowd disappearing entirely, unless you can afford to buy it back?
Wow. Now there is a thought to keep you up at night. If you aren't paying for the encryption, you are the marketing material. Till next time, stay safe, stay rigorously curious, and keep connecting in the real world.
Thanks for watching and listening to the Speed Mingle Network.